whole premise of working on your business, not just in your business.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in with me today. I am excited to bring to you Tim Vreeland. He is a friend of mine now for the last couple of years, and I've learned a lot about him and what he does, and I really support it because it's been a huge help in our lives and the way that we've been able to implement processes, and you'll learn more about that as we get into being able to interview him. So thanks for joining us today, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know a lot of my people probably have never maybe had the pleasure of hearing about you. And so I'd love it if you take a few minutes and tell us more about you and what it is that you do and how, just give us, one of your biggest tips that my real estate investors and their transactions and trying to run this, business that's never the same, a great tip that we can leave them with today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I like to identify myself. I'm a business strategist and process coach, and really two things with that is with business strategy, it takes intentionality to really stop is the first thing, to slow down and actually think through what you're doing and how you can do it better, and what's lacking, what you can add to it, and maybe what's overcomplicated. Sometimes we get addicted to automations and all sorts of inventions like Zapier and stuff, and
Yes.
those can sometimes be the problem in a business with too much going on. So simple is usually better when it comes to business strategy, if that gives you at the end of the day what you're looking for in the success in your business. And then process coaching is really it's taking that intentionality, identifying those problems, and then really putting a plan in place of these are the steps we go through with the particular activities in your business, and then you can take that and put that into a training manual. There's many softwares, one I use called Trainual. That's a very, very powerful software to, for team building and stuff. And again, your actions will build upon the prior action. So that's kind of the thing. And there's a level of strategy in your business, and then actually defining the processes, and then using either technology or even just old school methods as well. Those are definitely not dead. But I would say one of the biggest things is really just slowing down, and it's the whole premise of working on your business, not just in your business. It's easy to get caught up with working in your business because really you're letting outside forces dictate what you do with your time. You're letting your calendar, your clients, and everything dictate what tomorrow's going to look like. But when you reverse that and you tell tomorrow what it's going to look like, now you have a frame that you can put clients into. When someone says, hey, I want to book a call, or you want to do a team building session or something, or you want to work on your business, you have time blocks that you can actually put those particular activities into.
Yeah, so that is a game changer. So let me say this to you, like on behalf of everyone who's listening in the real estate investor world. For many that we're speaking to here today, they're kind of like the person that wears all the hats in their business. And it's great when you have a business that you can kind of now segment, because the same thing happens every day, or everything looks the same, and it's more cookie cutter. But for many of these investors, they are doing all this marketing to bring in seller leads, right? So we can't ever say, gosh, I hope all the seller leads come in between 2 and 4 tomorrow, right? So they might have a seller lead come in at 10 a.m. and they need to go run and actually be at that seller's house, see the house, and write the deal. So it just kind of throws off their day if they're that one person that wears all the hats in the business. And then they get back, they're going to get everything else done, and then another call comes in. I mean, I would love for that to happen multiple times a day. It normally isn't the case. Normally you're 100 calls before you have one great deal, but nonetheless, the calls are coming. The, strategy is to go out as quickly as possible, eliminate the competition and that kind of thing. So like, how can you speak to somebody whose kind of schedule can be thrown off track at any given moment with, because they wear all the hats?
Yeah, I would say a couple of pieces to that. I think it's easy for someone to exclude their business and say, if you understand my industry and how volatile it is, or how much it can really fluctuate, and there's no consistency. I would argue there's always some level of consistency somewhere within every industry, and being able to kind of identify and repurpose some of those efforts. You could have systems support some of those conversations. Systems make scheduling or even showing up to those calls easier. So really, even still trying to have the frame to say, okay, the stress that comes from being thrown this, this schedule change, where is that really coming from? Is my ex like, so, okay, so take a step back. Consistently, do those seller leads come from any consistent time block in a particular day? Like, are those seller leads going to come through at 4 a.m? Are they going to come from at 11 at night? Like, so really trying to identify. Now, maybe it is a broad time frame where literally it is anywhere from 7 to 10 at night. I don't fully know that. But it's really challenging. What are the boundaries? Where does it really start and stop? And where do my seller leads consistently come in? So understanding the data. Secondly, understanding your numbers. If you don't have any particular goal or metric in your business and you're just taking leads as they come, it's going to stress anyone out, right? Versus if you've already hit your sales goals, it's not that you shouldn't always be striving, but if you've now tipped to a point to where surpassing those goals is now taking away from your self-care, your life, and your sanity, now you're now no longer building a sustainable business. So kind of understanding the boundaries, trying to really understand, okay, what is consistent within this inconsistent schedule change, and how can I better be intentional with that? And you may turn down leads, I guess is what I'm getting at, to where you may have boundaries where you say, if that comes in, I'm not going to take that. Now, of course, when it comes to problem solving, you say, okay, if that is my decision and my solution, I'm going to implement, what would be the negative impact of that? What would be the positive, and listing out both sides, right? Because there's always a good and a bad to every action you take. And really understanding the boundaries so you can make wise decisions. I think a lot of people put a vague label on the big stressors of their business, and maybe inconsistency is a big stressor with realtors in that are listening to this podcast. But I would challenge, with intentionality, you can find those borders, and you can control that better. And then as it comes in, you're still telling it, this is okay. This is what I'm going to do. Now, I don't know all the little nuances with showing up to those jobs. So I would argue that if you challenge the process you're going through, from collecting that lead, vetting the lead, to actually showing up to the property, and the likelihood of closing that deal, and when the competition truly does show up, does everyone show up on time or early? Like, understanding those numbers, you now can understand how aggressive you have to be, and maybe other areas you can streamline your process. But it really comes down to just slowing down, stopping, taking the time to challenge and question, where is it really off? I'm going to look for the problems without putting a label on it, and things will come to you, and you'll have more clarity in that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I'd love for you to share kind of your epiphany story, if you would, because I think it's such a great example for any business owner, and especially, real estate investors.
Yeah. So, I guess starting in, well, first of all, I can kind of start back when I was like in high school. So I always wanted to be a firefighter. It started back when I was in elementary school. They have the professionals visit the school, really, to probably, give you an idea of what you could be
Right.
and stuff. Which is kind of funny because I don't know if they have small business owners there, but not so much entrepreneurs, but I was always hooked on the firefighter, and I always had that giving heart. I grew up in the church, and kind of servant minded, and that was the home I was brought up in. And a lot of homeless shelters we served in, a lot of giving to the community. And a firefighter, I just thought, was a way to help people, and it seemed kind of cool too, and that was always my journey, what I wanted to do. And then I became an EMT right out of high school. I was a medic on an ambulance and did that for a couple of years. And that, just like anything else, when you start to lose your passion, it just becomes a job. And
Yeah.
I was kind of miserable. And kind of around that time is I mean, even since I was young, I had all sorts of business ventures and stuff I would try. I sold air purifiers. I mean, I sold kitchen knives. I sold everything you can think of, and I just enjoyed kind of the challenge of business and trying to make it work and seeing what would work. And I did some of the craziest things. I delivered, I sold newspapers door to door. I picked up phone books in my truck and resold them. Like, I did all sorts of crazy stuff. And anyways, so fast forward, there was kind of a lot of ups and downs and relationship stuff I went through. And after high school and into my mid-20s. And for a point in time, I was actually homeless, and I refused to go back to my mom's house. I wanted to figure out life on my own. And I wasn't sure what was next. And that basically led me to the friends that took me in, led me to meet my now wife of 10 years. And her dad owned a small business in town. And I was unemployed at the time and was trying to figure life out. And he needed help after the housing crash in '08. This
Mhm.
story was back in like 2011 or so, 2010, or actually 2009, 2010. After the '08 housing crash, it really affected his tile store because it was a, home remodeling and stuff like
Right.
that. And they were probably a few months away from just closing their doors. They were just totally spent. And at that point, they had already run their business for about 8 years. He was a very good salesman and built the business up, but did so on the back of his shoulders and really had no system in place. It was kind of just duct taped together. I mean, it worked, but I think that's because he was such a good salesman
Right.
that he sold more than the money they were losing. So they were burning cash, but he sold more than the money they were losing. And that's what kept their doors open. And around that time, I just started as a part-time truck driver, and I saw a need to help him, just like the many people I did when I was younger. And and then I just learned in kind of the school of hard knocks, just turning the business around one process at a time. And I just saw they were wasting fuel. They were paying me too much money on stuff. It was just so much wasted money on the back end of their operations. And it was just because he excused everything, that this is just how it is. I mean, life's too stressful. I don't have time for that. Like, the typical excuses most business owners put labels on things before even giving something the time of day. And a few years forward, we paid all the debt off, turned the business around, and and things were good. And I ended up cashing them out of the business. And looking back, I think I was ready to move on just like they were, because I was never passionate about tile. I
Yeah.
just love business, and taking over a business that you're not passionate about is not a good idea. So that put me through the ringer for a couple years after that. And basically, we were blessed to sell that business and move on from it. And over the course of owning that business, I also consulted contractors and helped other business owners really be more intentional with their systems. But about 2 years ago, I just specifically started getting into the coaching world and be more intentional with the skills that I learned turning around my father-in-law's business and other ones, and really, put that to use full time. So, and that's kind of where I'm at today. I really have a heart to serve small business owners, and entrepreneurs too, but small business owners primarily, that really want to do the best in their business. They want to serve their customers to the best of their ability, but they just can't ever find the time to slow down and think through the way that they're doing things in their business. And they don't understand that once you do that is really the pivotal change and point to having more freedom, having more peace of mind, and more confidence in your business.
Yeah, that is so, so, so true. My husband was, big on systems and practically had to, beat me over the head and, exactly what you're saying, but like, just show me, look where you're wasting this, you're wasting time, you're wasting time there. And, kind of like you're saying, letting the day dictate me rather than me dictating the day. And man, it was hard as this control freak to let it go, but it was all false beliefs, that I was holding on to. And so, I don't think I'm as mellow as you are, but it certainly changed my, I don't like act like I drink 10 cups of coffee, or espresso in the morning anymore. And it is easier and less stress to have those systems in place, have the vetting processes, and run it that way. And I think that just like you're saying, it's not something you do once, it's a continual way to look at your business, because there's always new things happening. There's always new strategies, new laws, or changes in the marketplace. And so it's just having a new mindset when you're starting to be able to look at it the way that you teach and coach people. I think it changes your life, because it's not just the way you run your business, it's the way you even plan, how you're going to spend time with your family, or take a vacation, or whatever it is, how you're going to do Christmas, whatever the case may be. So I think it's truly valuable what you teach. And so if people want to get on your email list or connect with you, get invited to your summits that you do, how would they find you?
Yeah, I'd say probably the easiest way is to go to timvreeland.com. It's just TIM and then V as in victory, REELAND.com. And that'll have links to my podcast and what I have going on, and a challenge that I'm putting together for small business owners to develop and strengthen that creative problem solving part of their mind as well. But yeah, that'd probably be the best place.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right. Well, you heard it. Check out timvreeland.com and get plugged in, listen to his podcast. Don't dismiss this information like, that was interesting, but it's not for me, because it's exactly what I used to think. And talk about a life-changing, game-changing thing to start looking at the processes in your business a different way. So anyway, thank you so much, Tim. Any last words or bit of advice that comes to mind before we end?
Yeah, I think just really quickly, just kind of piggybacking on what you said a little bit ago is really not getting hung up in the actual particular, the tactic that you're using, or even the software systems you're using, because things are ever changing, not only in systems, but just in the market and customer demand. And I'm sure you would know that, as all these listeners would, going through their business from when they started to where it is today. Things are different. So really having those fundamental, even if just simply the most powerful thing is if someone puts a question to you that says, how do you do this in your business? How do you train your staff? How do you vet, clients and leads? If you have a clear, concise answer, and even if it's chicken scratched on a piece of paper, that will give you so much more confidence than not having anything at all. So really just focus on getting the content out, be intentional with dictating the steps, start somewhere, and then you'll build upon that action. Don't wait for some fancy system that you see someone have success with. The success doesn't come from the system. The success comes from the investment in your time and being intentional with it.
Well, amen. Thank you for blessing us with your time today. I appreciate it. All right.